The void between dimensions screamed. Vegeta felt his body torn through reality itself, the hyperbolic time chamber collapsing around him in a maelstrom of white energy. One moment he'd been pushing past his limits, forcing his Kai beyond sustainable levels. The next, the fabric of space fractured like glass, and he was falling through colors that had no names, through sensations that defied Saiyan physiology. His last thought before consciousness fled was rage, pure, undiluted fury at losing control, at being pulled somewhere against his will like a child's toy caught in a cosmic wind. He crashed into Earth. Not his Earth. The impact cratered a forest in what would later be identified as the Pacific Northwest, trees vaporizing from the sheer kinetic force. Vegeta pushed himself from the smoking crater, armor cracked, pride intact. His first breath told him everything was wrong. The air tasted different, heavier somehow, lacking the familiar energy signature his Saiyan senses had mapped across a lifetime of battles. He reached for his Kai, felt it respond sluggishly, like moving through water instead of air. Still there. Still powerful, but muted, filtered through a reality that didn't quite recognize what he was. "Sir, we have an unidentified impact event. Energy signature is. I have never seen readings like this." Vegeta's enhanced hearing caught the transmission from miles away. Technology, surveillance. He was being watched, his lips curled into a predatory smile. Good. Let them see what a true warrior looked like. Let them tremble. The Global Defense Agency's response was immediate and overwhelming. Helicopters materialized over the tree line within minutes, searchlights cutting through the smoke. Soldiers in tactical gear established a perimeter, weapons trained on the crater. Vegeta stood at the center, arms crossed, utterly unconcerned. These insects with their primitive firearms thought to threaten the Prince of All Saiyans. "Unidentified individual, you are in violation of United States airspace and have caused significant property damage. Surrender immediately for processing." Vegeta's answer was a surge of Kai that shattered every window in the helicopters, sending them spinning. He didn't attack. That would dignify their pathetic attempt at intimidation. He simply existed with enough power that reality bent slightly around him and their machines fell from the sky. The soldiers opened fire. Bullets flattened against his skin, tinkling to the ground like rain. He didn't even blink. Then the air itself seemed to crack, and someone fast arrived. Red suit, confident posture. The figure landed between Vegeta and the soldiers, hands raised in what was probably meant to be a calming gesture. Whoa, everybody relax. I'm sure this is just a big misunderstanding. Hi there, I'm with the Guardians of the Globe. Name's Red Rush. You seem pretty tough, which is great, but maybe we could talk instead of the whole invulnerable to bullets demonstration. Vegeta studied him with the cold assessment of a predator evaluating prey. Fast. Probably the fastest thing on this planet based on the energy signature. Still nowhere near Kakarot's level or even his own. The Saiyan Prince's tail would have lashed with irritation if he still possessed it. Instead, he spoke, voice dripping with contempt. "Guardians of the Globe, what pathetic title is that? You protect this world." He gestured dismissively at the soldiers. "These weaklings couldn't protect themselves from a light breeze. What threat exists that requires your guardianship?" Red Rush's smile wavered slightly. "Okay, so hostile, got it. Look, buddy, I don't know where you came from or how you got those powers, but Earth is under protection. We've got rules, we've got systems. You can't just drop in and start." Vegeta moved. Not at full speed. He was still calibrating to this universe's physics, but fast enough that Red Rush's eyes widened in genuine shock. The Saiyan Prince was suddenly inches away, one hand gripping the speedster's shoulder with enough force to crack the reinforced material of his suit. The message was clear. Whatever speed advantage this guardian thought he had, it was insufficient. "I am Vegeta, Prince of All Saiyans, and I go where I please. Your rules mean nothing to me. Your systems are beneath my notice." He released Red Rush with a slight shove that sent the hero skidding backward. "But I'm listening. Tell me about the threats to this world. Tell me about the strongest beings here. Perhaps this universe will provide entertainment after all." Red Rush recovered his composure, though Vegeta could see the calculation behind his eyes. This one wasn't stupid. He recognized real power when it grabbed him. The strongest? Well, that'd probably be Omni-Man. He's basically Earth's Superman, flight, super strength, invulnerability, the whole package. Came from an alien planet called Viltrum. He's been protecting Earth for 20 years. Something flickered in Vegeta's expression. Alien, warrior, protector. The combination intrigued him despite himself. "Take me to this Omni-Man. I would meet this planet's champion." What Vegeta didn't know, what he couldn't know yet, was that in a monitoring station buried beneath the Pentagon, Cecil Stedman was watching every second of the interaction with growing concern. The energy readings from this Vegeta were astronomical, defying every conventional measurement. And when Cecil pulled up the satellite footage of the arrival, analyzing the dimensional tier that had deposited this warrior on Earth, his blood ran cold. Because in a universe where Viltrumites represented the apex of physical power, where Omni-Man was preparing to betray humanity and conquer it for the Empire, a new variable had just entered the equation. One that read as potentially more powerful than any Viltrumite on record. Cecil made 2 calls. The first was to the Guardians of the Globe, ordering them to make contact but not engage. Assessment only. The second was to Omni-Man himself. "Nolan, we have a situation. Unknown alien arrival, power levels are off the charts. He's asking to meet you specifically. I'm sending coordinates." On the other end of the line, Nolan Grayson, Omni-Man, champion of Earth, secret conqueror for the Viltrumite Empire, smiled. His beard couldn't quite hide the predatory expression. After 2 decades of pretending to be humanity's protector, after years of waiting for the Empire's signal to begin the conquest, something interesting had finally arrived. "I'll be there in 30 seconds, Cecil." 20 miles away, Vegeta felt it. A massive power signature approaching at speeds that actually impressed him. Not Kakarot level, not even close to Giant or Broly, but substantial, real. The first genuine warrior he'd sensed since arriving in this weak dimension. His Saiyan blood sang with anticipation. Red Rush was still talking. Something about peaceful resolution and diplomatic channels, but Vegeta ignored him entirely. His eyes locked on the sky as a figure in white and red appeared, descending like a meteor with controlled precision. Omni-Man landed with enough force to crack the ground, standing at full height, cape billowing, the very image of superheroic authority. The 2 warriors locked eyes. Nolan saw a shorter man with wild black hair, damaged armor, and an expression of absolute arrogance that reminded him of the Viltrumite Empire's greatest champions. The power radiating from this stranger made his Viltrumite instincts roar to life. Threat assessment, combat readiness, and the genetic imperative to determine hierarchy through strength. Vegeta saw something he recognized instantly, a predator wearing a hero's costume. The stance was too perfect, too controlled. The smile was too measured. This Omni-Man was hiding something, and whatever it was violent. So, Omni-Man's voice carried the weight of absolute confidence. "You're the one causing trouble. I'm Omni-Man, defender of Earth. And you are." Vegeta's response was to power up slightly, just enough to let his aura flare, white Kai crackling around his body like lightning, the sheer pressure of his energy making Red Rush stumble backward. The soldiers retreated further. Trees bent away from the force. "I am Vegeta, and I answer to no one." If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. The tension between them was nuclear. 2 warriors from empires built on conquest and strength, meeting for the first time in a universe that had no idea what was about to unfold. Red Rush's communicator crackled with Cecil's voice, urgent and stressed. "Get everyone clear. Now, whatever happens next, I don't want collateral damage." But it was too late for caution. Omni-Man's smile widened, showing teeth. "A fighter, good. It's been too long since I've met someone who might actually survive a real conversation." He crossed his arms, mirroring Vegeta's stance. "Tell me, Prince of Saiyans, where you come from, how do warriors settle disputes about territory?" Vegeta's grin was feral, dangerous, alive with the promise of violence. "The same way they settle everything, through battle." "They didn't fight, not yet." Omni-Man recognized the hunger in Vegeta's eyes. He'd seen it in the mirror for 2 decades while pretending to be Earth's noble protector. But he'd also survived 200 years as a Viltrumite through strategic thinking, not just raw power. This Saiyan was dangerous, unpredictable, and most importantly, unaligned with Earth's power structure. That made him potentially useful. "Walk with me," Omni-Man said, rising into the air. "If you can fly, that is." Vegeta's answer was to shoot skyward in a burst of white Kai, hovering at eye level with the Viltrumite champion. The flight was effortless despite the universe's different energy signature. Some abilities transcended dimensional physics. Behind them, Red Rush radioed frantically to Cecil, but both warriors ignored the speedster completely. They flew north, away from populated areas, over mountain ranges and forests that blurred beneath them. Omni-Man maintained a moderate pace, testing, always testing. Vegeta kept perfect formation beside him, not even breathing hard. After 20 minutes, they landed on a glacier in the Arctic, hundreds of miles from civilization. "Better," Omni-Man said. "No witnesses, no interruptions, just 2 warriors having an honest conversation." He turned to face Vegeta fully, and something shifted in his posture. The heroic facade dropped like a discarded mask, replaced by the cold calculation of a Viltrumite soldier. "You're not from this dimension, I can tell. The question is, why are you here?" Vegeta's eyes narrowed. "Accident. A rupture in dimensional barriers during training. I didn't choose this pathetic reality." He gestured dismissively at the frozen landscape. "Though I'm beginning to think it chose me for a reason. You're no hero, Omni-Man. You reek of deception." For the first time in years, Nolan Grayson laughed genuinely. "Perceptive. Most humans never see past the costume." He floated closer, voice dropping to conversational tones. "You're right. I'm not a hero. I'm a soldier. An agent of the Viltrumite Empire, the greatest civilization in the universe. For 20 years, I've played the role of Earth's protector, waiting for the signal to begin its conquest and integration into the Empire." Vegeta's expression didn't change, but his Kai spiked slightly, interest, not alarm. "Conquest. Now you're speaking my language. The Saiyan race was the universe's greatest warriors before." He stopped, old pain flickering across his features. "Before Frieza destroyed planet Vegeta, I'm one of the last, the prince of a dead empire." Omni-Man studied him with new understanding. Survivor, warrior without a kingdom, pride without purpose. He'd seen the type before among conquered species, the ones who either broke completely or became the Empire's most loyal soldiers, desperate to reclaim their lost glory through service to Viltrum. "Then you understand," Nolan said carefully. "The strong should rule, the weak should serve or be eliminated. It's the natural order of the universe. The Viltrumites have perfected this philosophy over thousands of years. We bring order to chaos, strength to weakness, purpose to purposeless civilizations." "And what do you offer me?" Vegeta's voice was cold, calculating. "Why should the Prince of All Saiyans care about your empire's ambitions?" Omni-Man gestured broadly at the sky, at the stars invisible beyond Earth's atmosphere. "Because alone, you're just a refugee in a foreign dimension. But with the Viltrumite Empire, you could be a conqueror again, a prince with an actual kingdom to rule." He moved closer, voice taking on the persuasive tone he'd used to seduce Debbie Grayson, to manipulate the Guardians, to play humanity like puppets for 2 decades. "The Empire values strength above all else. A warrior of your power. You'd be welcomed." elevated, given worlds to govern in the Empire's name. Vegeta was silent for a long moment, staring at the distant horizon. When he spoke, his voice carried memories of servitude, of bowing to Frieza, of being forced to conquer planets for a tyrant who'd murdered his father and destroyed his race. I've served empires before. I've been a soldier in someone else's army. I know how that story ends, with the soldier as powerful as the emperor but still taking orders because of tradition, because of hierarchy, because strength alone isn't enough when the entire system is designed to keep you in your place. His eyes locked onto Omni-Man's. Tell me the truth. In this Viltrumite Empire of yours, how many are stronger than you? The question hit harder than Omni-Man expected. His jaw tightened. The Empire has champions, warriors who have lived for millennia, who have conquered thousands of worlds. I'm strong, but I'm not the strongest. That's why I was sent to Earth alone. Planets like this are considered training grounds for younger Viltrumites. Younger, Vegeta's laugh was bitter. You're over 200 years old and still considered a rookie, still proving yourself to the Empire, still waiting for permission to conquer one primitive planet. He powered up slightly, Kai crackling around his body. I've surpassed gods. I've fought beings who could destroy universes with a thought. And you want me to join an empire where I'd spend centuries climbing a hierarchy designed by people weaker than me? Omni-Man's expression darkened. Weaker than you. That's a bold claim for someone who just arrived in this universe. Then test it. The challenge hung between them like a drawn blade. Omni-Man's Viltrumite blood screamed for combat, for establishing dominance, for putting this arrogant Saiyan in his place. But his strategic mind, honed through 2 centuries of conquest, recognized the trap. If he fought Vegeta now and lost, the entire plan for Earth collapsed. If he won but expended too much energy, Cecil and the Guardians would see his true capabilities, and the masquerade would end prematurely. Not yet, Nolan said finally. I'm not interested in a pointless dick-measuring contest. I'm offering you an alliance, Vegeta. You help me conquer Earth and I'll sponsor you to the Empire. Together we'd be unstoppable, a Viltrumite champion and a Saiyan prince. Earth would fall in days and the Empire would take notice. Vegeta considered it. In his mind, he calculated variables, his power level in this universe, the absence of Senzu beans or Bulma's technology, and the impossibility of returning to his dimension anytime soon. And beneath all the tactical considerations, something darker stirred, the part of him that had enjoyed serving Frieza, that had relished conquest and destruction before Kakarot's influence had softened him into something resembling heroic. This universe didn't know Goku, didn't know the Z-Fighters or the code of the Saiyans that Bardock had tried to instill. Here, Vegeta could be what he was born to be, a conqueror, a destroyer. A prince claiming his birthright through strength and blood. I'll consider it, Vegeta said finally. But first, I want to see these guardians you mentioned. I want to understand what passes for power on this world. If Earth's defenders are as pathetic as that speedster suggested, then perhaps conquest is the only logical outcome. Omni-Man smiled. The hook was set. Then come to the Guardians' headquarters tomorrow. I'll arrange a meeting, tell them you're interested in joining our team. It'll give you a chance to assess everyone's capabilities, and after you've seen how weak they truly are, he let the implication hang. After I've seen their weakness, we'll discuss terms. Vegeta's grin was predatory. But understand this, Omni-Man, I don't bow to anyone. Not to you, not to your empire, not to anyone. If I choose to conquer this Earth, it will be because I choose it, not because some alien bureaucracy gave me permission. Of course, Nolan agreed smoothly. A prince makes his own decisions. They flew back to civilization in silence, each lost in their own calculations. Omni-Man was already planning how to use Vegeta. The Saiyan's raw power could eliminate the Guardians instantly, removing the one obstacle to Earth's conquest. Once the planet was secured, Nolan could deal with Vegeta directly, either recruit him genuinely to the Empire or eliminate him as a threat. Simple. What Omni-Man didn't know was that Vegeta was running similar calculations. Use the Viltrumite to learn about this universe's power structure, then eliminate him and take his place as Earth's conqueror. The Empire could come later. First, establish dominance locally, then expand. Also simple. Neither warrior realized they were both being watched. In a pocket dimension adjacent to reality, Cecil Stedman reviewed satellite footage of the Arctic meeting. His new lip-reading software had caught every word despite the distance. His hands trembled slightly as he replayed Omni-Man's confession. Agent of the Viltrumite Empire, waiting for the signal to begin conquest. 20 years. 20 years of lies. The greatest hero on Earth was actually its greatest threat. And now there was a second alien warrior, potentially more powerful, being recruited to help with the invasion. Cecil made another call, this one to the Immortal. We need to accelerate the contingency protocols. Omni-Man isn't who we thought he was, and he's recruiting. Across the planet, the immortal, ancient warrior, unkillable champion, original founder of the Guardians of the Globe, listened to Cecil's briefing with growing horror. When it finished, he said only 2 words. Assemble everyone. Back in a global defense agency safehouse, Vegeta stood alone, studying his reflection in a window. The Saiyan prince looked different here, harder, colder, without Bulma's influence or Trunks' innocent questions to soften his edges. This universe didn't know the warrior who'd sacrificed himself to stop Majin Buu, didn't know the father who'd trained in the time chamber with his son, didn't know the man who'd learned, slowly and painfully, that strength without purpose was just destruction. Here he could be the old Vegeta, the one Frieza had created. His reflection smiled back, and it wasn't a hero's smile. Tomorrow he'd meet the Guardians. Tomorrow he'd assess their strength. Tomorrow he'd decide whether this Earth deserved a prince or a conqueror. But tonight, alone in the darkness, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered in Bulma's voice, "You're better than this." Vegeta crushed the thought like an insect and slept without dreams. The Guardians of the Globe headquarters existed in a state of controlled chaos when Vegeta arrived. Cecil had arranged the meeting for noon, giving him exactly 12 hours to brief the Guardians on what satellite surveillance had captured in the Arctic. The team assembled in their primary conference room, War Woman checking her mace, Aquarius reviewing tactical displays, Green Ghost flickering between tangibility, Darkwing studying dossiers with Batman-like intensity, Red Rush vibrating with nervous energy, and the Immortal standing at the head of the table like a statue carved from ancient stone. Omni-Man arrived first, playing his role perfectly, concerned hero, protective teammate, Earth's champion vouching for a potential new ally. Everyone, I know this is unusual, but Vegeta could be a valuable asset. He's powerful, skilled, and frankly, we could use someone of his caliber given the increasing extraterrestrial threats. The Immortal's ancient eyes studied Nalan with new suspicion. Cecil's briefing had been clear. Omni-Man was a traitor preparing to betray Earth. But the evidence was circumstantial, satellite footage with enhanced lip-reading, thermal analysis suggesting deception. Not enough for a public accusation. Not yet. So the Immortal played along, watching, waiting for Omni-Man to reveal himself completely. "If you trust him, Nalan, we'll give him a chance," the Immortal said carefully. "But he'll need to prove himself." Vegeta entered through the main doors with the casual arrogance of someone who knew he could destroy everything in the building without breaking a sweat. He dressed in spare GDA tactical gear. They'd offered to repair his Saiyan armor, but their technology was laughably primitive, and the black combat suit made him look like a soldier rather than a prince. He hated it. His eyes swept the room, cataloging threats with practiced efficiency. War Woman, strong, magical weapon, dangerous if underestimated but ultimately limited by human physiology enhanced with Amazonian genetics. Power level, insignificant compared to Saiyan standards but respectable for this dimension. Aquarius, water manipulation enhanced strength in his element, useless on dry land. Power level pathetic. Green Ghost, intangibility energy projection. Interesting defensive capabilities but no offensive power worth mentioning. Power level, annoying not threatening. Darkwing Human, wealthy, gadgets, the Batman wannabe. Vegeta dismissed him immediately as beneath notice. Red Rush, the speedster from yesterday, fast but fragile. One solid hit would shatter every bone in his body. Power level glass cannon. The Immortal, this one made Vegeta pause. Ancient, powerful. The energy signature was substantial, not Saiyan level but genuine. This one had survived millennia through strength and cunning, worthy of minimal respect. And Omni-Man, standing among them like a wolf in sheep's clothing, pretending to be their teammate while planning their destruction. So, Vegeta said, voice dripping with contempt, these are Earth's mightiest heroes, how? Underwhelming. Red Rush bristled. Hey, show some respect, we've saved the world more times than. Then what? Vegeta interrupted, moving with speed that made even Red Rush flinch. He was suddenly inches from the speedster's face. Then you can count. I've destroyed worlds. I've conquered civilizations that would consider your entire planet a minor curiosity. Your saving the world is a child's game compared to the battles I've fought. War Woman stepped forward, mace humming with mystical energy. Enough posturing. Omni-Man says you want to join the Guardians. That means following our code, protecting the innocent and working as a team. Can you do that, or are you just another thug with superpowers? Vegeta's laugh was cruel. Protecting the innocent. What determines innocence? Weakness. The inability to defend oneself. In my experience, the innocent are just the weak who haven't been culled yet. The room went cold. Green Ghost materialized fully, energy crackling around her hands. Darkwing's hand moved toward his utility belt. Aquarius shifted into a combat stance. Even Red Rush stopped vibrating, deadly serious now. Only the Immortal and Omni-Man remained calm. The Immortal because he was reading the subtext. This Vegeta was testing them, probing for weakness, establishing dominance. Standard alpha predator behavior. The real question was whether he could be redirected toward heroism or if he was already committed to villainy. Omni-Man because he was enjoying the show. Vegeta was doing exactly what Nolan needed, exposing the Guardians' moral rigidity, their naive belief in protecting the weak, their fundamental unsuitability for the harsh realities of universal power dynamics. Soon, very soon, Nolan would kill them all. Having Vegeta witness their weakness first would make the Saiyans' recruitment that much easier. Perhaps, the Immortal said quietly, we should see what you can do, a training exercise, you against our combat simulator. Let's see if your power matches your arrogance. Vegeta's grin was feral. Finally, something interesting. The combat simulator was the GDA's pride. A reinforced chamber capable of generating holographic enemies with semi-solid mass projections, designed to push even Omni-Man to moderate effort. The Guardians filed into the observation deck while Vegeta stood alone in the center of the white chamber, arms crossed, waiting. Cecil's voice came through the speakers. The simulator will generate progressively stronger opponents. Defend yourself without killing the projections. Show us control as well as power. Control, Vegeta scoffed. Fine, I'll show you control. The first wave materialized, 20 armed soldiers with advanced weapons. Vegeta didn't move. He simply powered up to 1% of his base form, and the resulting pressure wave slammed every projection into the walls hard enough to deactivate them. Time elapsed, 1.2 seconds. Wave 2, 50 cybernetic warriors with energy weapons. Vegeta moved this time, not bothering to fly, just walking through them at normal speed while his passive Kai barrier shattered their attacks and bodies. He reached the far wall, turned, and they were all gone. Time elapsed, 8 seconds. Wave 3, giant mechanized war machines, each the size of a building. Vegeta yawned, pointed one finger, and fired a basic Kai blast that vaporized all six simultaneously. Time elapsed, 0.4 seconds. In the observation deck, the Guardians exchanged looks. War Woman's grip on her mace tightened. Red Rush's confidence evaporated. Green Ghost whispered, "Holy shit." Only Omni-Man smiled. Wave 4. The simulator's final challenge. A holographic approximation of Omni-Man himself, calibrated to match Nolan's known capabilities. The projection flew at Vegeta with Viltrumite speed, fist cocked for a devastating punch. Vegeta caught it with one hand. For a moment, the chamber was silent. Then Vegeta squeezed, and the holographic Omni-Man's fist crumpled like tissue paper. The projection struggled, tried to break free, but Vegeta's grip was absolute. With his free hand, the Saiyan prince grabbed the projection's throat and slammed it into the ground hard enough to crack the reinforced floor. "This," Vegeta said clearly, making sure everyone in the observation deck could hear, "is your champion. This is the power you celebrate." He drove his knee into the projection's stomach, folding it in half. Pathetic. The holographic Omni-Man exploded into pixels. Time elapsed 3 seconds. Vegeta looked directly at the observation window, at the real Omni-Man standing there. His message was clear. "I could do that to you just as easily." Cecil's voice returned, slightly shaken. "Test complete. Vegeta, you've demonstrated exceptional combat capabilities, but the Guardians are more than just fighters. We're protectors, heroes. Can you be that?" Vegeta flew up to the observation deck, passing through the reinforced glass like it was mist, a casual demonstration of power that made everyone except Omni-Man step back. He landed among them, and the confined space suddenly felt oppressively small with his presence filling it. "Heroes," he repeated, tasting the word like poison. "You want me to save people, rescue cats from trees, smile for the cameras while pretending that weakness deserves protection." He looked each Guardian in the eye. "I'm a warrior, a prince. I exist to fight, to conquer, to prove my strength against worthy opponents. Everything else is a waste of time." The immortal stepped forward, and for the first time, Vegeta sensed something approaching genuine power. The ancient warrior's eyes held depths of experience that even Vegeta's pride couldn't completely dismiss. "I've lived for thousands of years," the immortal said quietly. "I've seen empires rise and fall. I've watched warriors like you, proud, powerful, convinced that strength is the only truth, and I've buried most of them." He moved closer, unafraid. "You want to know what I've learned? Strength without purpose is just destruction. Power without responsibility is tyranny. You may be strong, Vegeta, but strength alone doesn't make you worthy of respect." "Respect?" Vegeta's laugh was sharp. "I don't need your respect. I don't need anything from any of you." "Then why are you here?" War Woman challenged. "If we're so beneath you, why waste time with this meeting?" Vegeta went silent. The question hit closer than he'd like to admit. Why was he here? He could leave, find his own way in this universe. But where would he go? What would he do? Float in space searching for worthy opponents? Conquer planets alone? Return to the empty existence he'd lived before Bulma, before Trunks, before Earth had somehow become home? This wasn't his Earth. These weren't his people. He owed them nothing. Omni-Man sensed the opening and took it smoothly. "Maybe we're approaching this wrong. Vegeta doesn't need to be a traditional hero, but he could be an asset against extraterrestrial threats. God knows there are enough of them. Sequids, Viltrumites, Flaxens, Earth faces invasion attempts monthly. Having someone of Vegeta's power as an independent operator could save millions of lives." It was a masterful manipulation. Offer Vegeta freedom while tying him to Earth's defense. Make him feel valuable without demanding he compromise his pride. And most importantly, keep him close enough to use when the time came to kill the Guardians and begin the conquest. The immortal saw through it but couldn't counter without revealing he knew Omni-Man's true allegiance. "Damn it. We could use someone like you," the immortal admitted carefully. "But on probation, Supervised missions only. Prove you can work within rules and we'll discuss full membership. Vegeta's pride screamed against accepting restrictions from beings weaker than him. But his tactical mind, sharpened through years of fighting alongside the Z-Fighters, recognized the value in observing this universe's power structure before committing to any path. "Fine," he said finally, "probation. But I'm not wearing a costume, I'm not taking orders from weaklings, and if I decide your mission is beneath me, I'm leaving. Understood?" The immortal nodded slowly. Understood. As the meeting broke up, Vegeta caught Omni-Man's eye. A silent communication passed between them, the conspiracy continuing, the conquest still planned, just delayed slightly. But what neither of them knew was that Cecil had recorded everything. Every word, every gesture, every threat. And in a secure facility deep underground, he was assembling a team specifically designed to kill Viltrumites. Because Cecil Stedman had built his entire career on one principle: prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And right now, the worst-case scenario was two alien warriors deciding Earth was theirs for the taking. The best case, that Vegeta's pride was actually a weakness they could exploit. Time would tell which scenario played out. The call came 3 days later at 2 a.m. Vegeta had been staying in a GDA-provided apartment in Washington, D.C., having every moment of domesticity, when his communicator, a clunky piece of Earth technology Cecil had insisted he carry, screamed to life. The immortal's voice was urgent, stripped of its usual measured calm. "All Guardians to headquarters. Immediate threat. Omni-Man is not responding to communications." Vegeta was airborne before the transmission ended, white Kai trail blazing across the night sky. Something in the immortal's tone suggested this wasn't a standard crisis. This was the moment. He could feel it in his Saiyan blood, the electric anticipation before a real fight. He arrived at headquarters in under a minute to find the building in lockdown. The Guardians were assembling in the main hall, but something was wrong. Their body language was off, too tense, too deliberate. Warwoman's hand never left her mace. Red Rush wasn't vibrating with his usual nervous energy but standing eerily still. Green Ghost remained fully corporeal, ready to phase at a microsecond's notice. Then Vegeta saw why. Omni-Man stood in the center of the room, and the facade was completely gone. No more heroic smile, no more protective teammate posture. He stood like a Viltrumite conqueror, shoulders back, cape hanging like a blood-red declaration of war, expression carved from stone and ancient violence. "Nalan," the immortal said quietly, "Cecil played us the recording. We know what you said in the Arctic, we know what you are." Omni-Man's laugh was cold. "Took you long enough. I was starting to think you'd never figure it out." His eyes swept across the Guardians, these people he'd worked alongside for years, saved from death dozens of times, smiled with him at press conferences and charity events. 20 years. 20 years of pretending to care about you, about this pathetic species, about truth, justice, and the American way. The last phrase dripped with contempt. "Do you know how exhausting it is? Pretending weakness matters. Pretending your little moral codes are anything but the desperate fantasies of beings too fragile to accept the universe's only real law." "Strength," Vegeta said, stepping forward. Every head turned toward him. "You're going to say strength is the only law, that the weak exist to serve the strong. Very original, Omni-Man." Nalan's eyes locked onto Vegeta, and something shifted in his expression: calculation, reassessment. "You're here. Good. I was starting to think you'd chosen the wrong side." "I haven't chosen any side," Vegeta said flatly, "but I'm curious. You spent 20 years building trust, playing the hero, and integrating yourself into human society. You have a wife, a son, and you're throwing it all away for what? An empire's approval, permission to conquer one primitive planet." He crossed his arms. "I thought Viltrumites were supposed to be strategic." Omni-Man's jaw tightened. "You don't understand the Empire." "I understand perfectly," Vegeta interrupted. "I served an empire once, Frieza's empire. I conquered worlds in his name, destroyed civilizations, murdered billions because my emperor commanded it. And you know what I learned?" His voice dropped, dangerous and cold. "Empires don't care about their soldiers. They use you until you're broken, then replace you. Your Viltrumite Empire sent you here alone because you're expendable. They'll take Earth when you've done the hard work, and you'll be rewarded with a pat on the head and another assignment to some other backwater planet." "You're wrong," Nolan snarled, but doubt flickered in his eyes. The immortal seized the moment. "He's not wrong, Nolan. I've seen empires too, thousands of them across thousands of years. They all promise glory and deliver servitude. You think Viltrum will make you special. You're a tool. And when this tool breaks..." Omni-Man moved. Not at Vegeta, at the immortal. The ancient warrior barely got his hands up before Omni-Man's fist connected with his jaw, launching him through 3 reinforced walls and into the street beyond. The other Guardians reacted instantly, War Woman's mace swinging for Nolan's head, Red Rush vibrating into superspeed to attack from behind, Aquarus summoning water from the building's emergency systems, Green Ghost phasing to avoid the initial chaos while preparing energy blasts, Darkwing deploying smoke pellets and explosive batarangs. It wasn't enough. Omni-Man caught War Woman's mace mid-swing, twisted it from her grip, and drove it through her chest in one fluid motion. Her eyes went wide with shock and betrayal before the light left them. Red Rush managed to land 17 punches to Nolan's ribs in the span of a heartbeat, but Viltrumite biology absorbed the impacts. Omni-Man's hand shot out with impossible precision, caught the speedster mid-vibration and squeezed. Red Rush's skull imploded with a wet crunch. Aquarus's water attacks were evaporated by Omni-Man's heat vision. Green Ghost tried to phase through an attack, but Nolan had fought intangibles before. He grabbed her at the exact microsecond she solidified to breathe, snapped her neck, and threw the body aside. Darkwing's gadgets were impressive by human standards, laughable by Viltrumite ones. Omni-Man flew through the smoke, grabbed the vigilante by the throat, and with a single twist ended the Batman of this universe. Time elapsed, 11 seconds. 4 Guardians are dead. Vegeta watched without intervening, arms still crossed, expression unreadable. He analyzed Omni-Man's technique, efficient, brutal, emotionless. This was a soldier executing a mission, not a hero losing control. Every movement was calculated to maximize lethality while minimizing his own exposure. The immortal crashed back through the wall, blood streaming from his broken nose but already healing. He looked at the bodies of his teammates, people he'd fought beside for years, and something ancient and terrible awakened in his eyes. "You son of a bitch," the immortal whispered, then louder roaring, "You son of a bitch." They collided midair like meteors, trading blows that shattered windows for blocks around. The immortal was strong, genuinely strong, and his millennia of combat experience showed in every technique. But Omni-Man was Viltrumite, genetically engineered for conquest, with 200 years of his own battle-hardened instincts. They were evenly matched in skill. But Nolan was willing to kill. The immortal was still pulling his punches, hopping to subdue rather than execute. That hesitation cost him. Omni-Man grabbed the immortal's head with both hands and began to squeeze. The ancient warrior's skull creaked and began to crack. His healing factor fought back, but Viltrumite's strength was relentless, inexorable. "Stop," Vegeta said. Both fighters froze, Omni-Man hands still crushing the immortal's skull, the immortal consciousness fatting but still aware. They looked at Vegeta, who hadn't moved from his position, whose expression hadn't changed. "Why?" Omni-Man demanded. "I thought you understood the strong should rule, the weak should." "Die," Vegeta interrupted. "Yes, I know the speech, I've given the speech, and you're right, strength should determine hierarchy." He finally moved, walking slowly toward them through the rubble and corpses. "But you're not strong, Omni-Man. You're just a soldier following orders. Killing weaker opponents doesn't prove strength. It proves you're afraid to face someone who might actually challenge you." Omni-Man released the immortal, who collapsed to the floor gasping, skull slowly reforming. Nalan turned his full attention to Vegeta, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Are you challenging me, Prince of Saiyans?" "I'm pointing out reality," Vegeta said. "You've been on this planet for 20 years pretending to be a hero, waiting for permission from an empire thousands of light years away to start your conquest. You've killed 4 Guardians in 11 seconds, congratulations. You can murder people weaker than you. Very impressive." His voice dripped with sarcasm. "But when I asked if you wanted to fight me in the Arctic, you declined. When I demonstrated my power in the simulator, you smiled but didn't test yourself against me. You're not a conqueror, Omni-Man. You're a coward hiding behind an empire's authority." The insult hung in the air like a thrown gauntlet. Omni-Man's hands clenched into fists. His Viltrumite pride, the genetic imperative to establish dominance, to prove superiority, warred with his strategic mind. Fighting Vegeta now, while the immortal was still alive, while Cecil's forces were undoubtedly mobilizing, while the planet's defenses were on high alert. It was tactically unsound. But Vegeta had called him a coward, in front of witnesses, in front of a warrior he'd hoped to recruit. That couldn't stand. "Fine," Omni-Man said quietly. "You want to test strength? Let's test it, but not here, not with interruptions." He rose into the air, hovering near the ceiling. "There's a desert in Nevada, no civilians for 100 miles. We finish this here. Winner claims Earth." Vegeta's grin was savage. Finally, an honest challenge. Behind them, the immortal struggled to stand, skull still healing, watching this exchange with growing horror. These 2 monsters were going to fight, and Earth was the prize. He had to stop this, had to warn Cecil, had to. Vegeta's hand shot out, almost casual, and fired a precise Kai blast that struck the immortal in the chest. Not enough to kill, the ancient warrior's healing would handle it, but enough to incapacitate for several hours. "No interruptions," Vegeta said to Omni-Man. "As you said." They flew west, 2 warriors racing toward Nevada at speeds that broke the sound barrier repeatedly, leaving sonic booms in their wake. Behind them, the Guardians' headquarters smoldered, 4 bodies cooling, and the immortal lay unconscious in his own blood. Cecil watched it all through satellite feeds, watched 2 alien monsters fly toward an uninhabited desert, and made the hardest decision of his career. He activated Protocol Zero. In a bunker beneath Mount Rushmore, engineers powered up the weapon they'd been building for years, the contingency plan for if Omni-Man ever went rogue. An orbital kinetic strike platform capable of hitting targets with the force of nuclear weapons, designed to penetrate Viltrumite biology. It would kill Omni-Man. It would also kill Vegeta. And Cecil didn't hesitate to authorize both targets. In the Nevada desert, 2 warriors landed on opposite sides of a vast salt flat, nothing but empty wasteland stretching to the horizon in every direction. The night sky blazed with stars, indifferent to the violence about to unfold below. Omni-Man removed his cape and let it fall to the sand. The gesture was significant. He was dropping the hero's costume, revealing the soldier beneath. Vegeta powered up to his base form, white aura crackling to life around him. Still not Super Saiyan, that would come if needed, but enough to make the desert sand vibrate and the air shimmer with heat. "One question before we start," Vegeta said. "Your son, Mark, he's developing powers, isn't he? Viltrumite genetics." Omni-Man's expression flickered, surprise then suspicion. "How did you?" "I'm a father too," Vegeta said simply. "I recognize the look. You care about him despite yourself, despite your mission, despite your empire." He paused. "What happens to him when you conquer Earth? Does he become a soldier too? Does the empire decide his fate?" For just a moment, Nolan Grayson looked uncertain, looked human. Then the Viltrumite warrior reasserted control. "Mark will understand. Eventually, when he's older and stronger. He'll see that the Empire's way is the only way that matters. Wrong answer, Vegeta said. And then they fought. The first exchange of blows created a shockwave that vaporized sand for 3 miles in every direction, turning the Nevada desert into a glass crater. Vegeta and Omni-Man collided at speeds that turned their bodies into blurs, each impact generating thunderclaps that rattled windows in Las Vegas 60 miles away. Omni-Man fought like a Viltrumite, brutal, efficient, 200 years of conquest distilled into every punch. He aimed for vital points, used his momentum to multiply force, and leveraged his flight to attack from unpredictable angles. Against any opponent in this universe, it would have been overwhelming. Vegeta fought like a Saiyan, tactical brilliance wrapped in controlled fury. He'd sparred with Goku, traded blows with Giant, and survived battles against gods and demons. Omni-Man was fast, strong, and skilled, but he wasn't divine. He wasn't transcendent. He was just good. And good wasn't enough. Vegeta caught Omni-Man's haymaker with his left hand, drove his right fist into the Viltrumite's ribs with enough force to crack bones that had survived atmospheric re-entry. Nolan's eyes widened in shock, then pain. He tried to pull back, reassess, but Vegeta was already inside his guard, landing combinations that the Viltrumite's enhanced perception could barely track. Omni-Man crashed into the desert floor, creating a trench 200 feet long. He rose quickly, wiping purple blood from his mouth, looking at Vegeta with new understanding and growing fear. "You're holding back," Nolan realized. "Obviously," Vegeta replied. "I want to see what you can actually do before I end this." Rage and desperation drove Omni-Man forward. He flew at Vegeta with everything he had: maximum velocity, maximum power, 2 centuries of combat experience unleashed in a frenzy designed to overwhelm through sheer aggression. His fists became pistons, his body a weapon honed by Viltrumite genetics and battlefield necessity. Vegeta blocked every strike with one hand. Not even trying, just blocking, casual, effortless. His expression was almost bored. "Is this it?" Vegeta asked. "This is what the Viltrumite Empire's soldiers are capable of. This is the strength that conquered thousands of worlds." He caught both of Omni-Man's fists simultaneously and held them locked. Disappointing. Then he headbutted the Viltrumite with enough force to shatter Nolan's nose and orbital bone, kicked him in the stomach hard enough to expel all air from his lungs. And while Omni-Man was still reeling, powered up to 20% of his base form. The resulting energy wave flattened everything within a 10-mile radius. When the dust cleared, Omni-Man was embedded in the desert floor, costume torn, body broken in 17 places, healing factor struggling to compensate for damage on a scale he'd never experienced. He tried to stand, collapsed, tried again. Pride, that essential Viltrumite characteristic, forced him upright even as his legs trembled. "You can't," Nolan coughed blood. "The Empire will come. When they realize what happened here, they'll send champions. Warriors who have lived for millennia. You can't fight them all." Vegeta landed in front of him, expression unreadable. "Let them come. I've fought gods, Omni-Man, literal deities with the power to erase universes. Your Empire's champions will be a nice warm-up." Overhead, unseen by either warrior, Cecil's orbital weapon locked onto both targets. The satellite's AI confirmed a clear firing solution, no civilian population within lethal radius, and both hostile aliens positioned for maximum kinetic impact. Authorization codes verified. Final countdown initiated. 10 seconds. Cecil watched the feed, finger hovering over the confirmation button. 2 monsters who could destroy Earth are fighting each other in the desert. The logical move was to kill them both while they were distracted, save humanity from one threat by exploiting another. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way Vegeta had called Omni-Man a coward. Maybe it was the subtle disgust in the Saiyan's voice when discussing empires and servitude. Maybe Cecil was just hopping, desperately, foolishly hopping, that Vegeta was something other than another conqueror. He let the countdown run, 5 seconds, 4 seconds. In the desert, Vegeta stared down at the broken Viltrumite and a memory surfaced unbidden. Trunks, his son, asks him once, "Dad, why do you keep training? You're already the strongest. What are you trying to prove?" And Vegeta had answered honestly, "I'm trying to prove that strength without purpose is just destruction. That power can be more than conquest." He'd meant it then. Did he mean it now? This universe wasn't his. These people weren't his responsibility. He could kill Omni-Man, conquer Earth himself, and rule as the prince he was born to be. No Kakarot to show him up. No Bulma to lecture him about responsibility. No Beerus to remind him there were always greater powers. Just him, his strength, his will imposed on reality. The old Vegeta, Frieza's soldier, would have done it without hesitation. But the new Vegeta, the father, the husband, the man who'd learned that protecting the weak wasn't weakness but the highest form of strength, hesitated. 2 seconds. "Get up," Vegeta said quietly. Omni-Man looked at him through swollen eyes. "What?" "I said get up, we're not finished." 1 second. Nolan struggled to his feet, bones grinding, healing factor working overtime. He didn't understand. He was beaten, helpless. Vegeta could end him with a thought. Why the delay? 0. Cecil's finger hit the abort button. The orbital weapon powered down, targeting lasers disengaging, kinetic rods returning to safety configuration. In the command center, analysts exhaled in collective relief. Cecil slumped in his chair, hopping he hadn't just made the worst mistake of his career. In Nevada, Vegeta grabbed Omni-Man by the throat, lifted him off the ground, and spoke with absolute clarity. "Listen carefully because I'm only saying this once. You're going to return to your wife and son. You're going to tell them the truth about what you are, what you planned, what you did to the Guardians. Then you're going to spend the rest of your pathetic existence trying to make amends. Not because I think you can earn redemption, you can't, but because your son deserves better than a father who's either a liar or a corpse." Omni-Man's eyes widened. "You're letting me live." "I'm giving you the same choice I was given once," Vegeta said. "When I came to Earth, my Earth, I planned to destroy it, conquer it for my empire, but someone showed me that strength could be more than destruction, that even a warrior could choose to protect instead of conquer." His grip tightened. "I'm not that someone. I'm not going to hold your hand or believe in your potential, but your son will. And maybe, that'll be enough to save you from yourself." He released Omni-Man, who collapsed to his knees. "What about Earth?" Nolan asked hoarsely. "The Empire will still come when they realize I've failed." "Let them come," Vegeta repeated. "I'll be here." He turned away, looking up at the stars. "Until I find a way back to my dimension, this Earth is under my protection. Not because I care about humans, not because I believe in your pathetic hero codes, but because I chose it. My strength, my rules, my decision." He began to float, white aura reigniting around his body. "One more thing, Omni-Man. If you ever threaten this planet again, if you hurt your family, betray humanity, or contact your empire for reinforcements, I won't give you another chance. I'll kill you slowly enough that your Viltrumite healing will keep you conscious for every second. Understand?" Nolan nodded, too broken to speak. Vegeta flew back toward the city, leaving the Viltrumite alone in the crater, surrounded by glass and shattered pride. 20 minutes later, Vegeta landed on the roof of the GDA headquarters, where the immortal sat, skull fully healed, staring at the bodies of his fallen teammates covered by white sheets. The ancient warrior looked up as the Saiyan approached, hand moving instinctively toward his weapon. "Relax," Vegeta said. "I'm not here to fight." Omni-Man. Alive, beaten, I sent him home to face his family. The immortal's expression hardened. He murdered 4 Guardians. He deserves. "He deserves to die, yes," Vegeta interrupted. But his son doesn't deserve to lose his father, especially not without understanding why. Let the boy see what his father really is. Let that betrayal motivate him to be better. The universe needs more warriors willing to choose heroism over heritage. The immortal studied Vegeta for a long moment. You could have conquered Earth yourself. Omni-Man was the only one who could have stopped you, and you crushed him. Why didn't you take what you clearly have the power to claim? Vegeta was silent, staring out at the Washington, D.C. skyline, at the millions of humans sleeping in their beds, unaware how close they'd come to extinction tonight. "Because I've been both," he said finally, "conqueror and protector, destroyer and defender, and I've learned that conquest is easy. Any idiot with sufficient power can destroy civilizations, but choosing to protect the weak when you have the strength to dominate them, that requires real strength, the kind that has nothing to do with power levels or combat ability." He turned to face the immortal directly. "I'm not a hero, don't mistake this for altruism, but I'm also not a conqueror anymore. I'm a warrior without a kingdom, stranded in a dimension that isn't mine. Until I find a way home, I need purpose, and protecting this Earth from threats it can't handle itself. That'll do." The immortal extended his hand. "Then welcome to the guardians of the globe. What's left of us anyway?" Vegeta looked at the offered hand for a moment, then ignored it completely, crossing his arms instead. "I'm not joining your team. I'll work with you when necessary, but I don't take orders and I don't wear costumes. I fight on my terms or I don't fight at all." A slight smile crossed the immortal's ancient face. "Fair enough. Independent contractor status it is." In a suburban home in Baltimore, Nolan Grayson materialized in his living room through a shattered window, broken and bleeding. Debbie screamed. Mark came running downstairs, and the lies that had sustained a family for 17 years finally, mercilessly, came to an end. The conversation that followed would break hearts and reshape destinies. Nolan confessed everything: the Empire, the mission, the murders, the truth of what Viltrumites really were, Debbie's horror, Mark's betrayal. The family is imploding under the weight of revealed monstrosity. But buried in the confession, Nolan mentioned one thing that gave Mark hope. A warrior from another dimension had spared his father's life, given him a chance at redemption, and chosen to protect Earth not from obligation but from choice. Mark would remember that, would seek out this Vegeta, would learn from someone who understood the burden of power and the difficulty of choosing heroism over heritage. Across the multiverse in the Dragon Ball universe, Bulma sat alone in Capsule Corporation, staring at Vegeta's empty training room. He'd been gone for 3 days now, vanished during a session in the hyperbolic time chamber with no trace, no energy signature, nothing. Trunks was devastated. Even Goku was concerned. She didn't know where he was, if he was alive, if he'd ever come back. But she knew Vegeta, knew his pride, his strength, his fundamental core that had evolved from destroyer to protector over decades of choice and consequence. Wherever he was, whatever universe had claimed him, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. He'd survive, he'd adapt, and somehow, impossibly, he'd find his way home. Because that's what Vegeta did, that's what princes did. They endured. The Invincible Universe would never be the same. Vegeta established himself as Earth's most powerful protector, an independent force that answered to no government, no team, no authority but his own judgment. When the Flaxans invaded, he destroyed their entire expeditionary force in 4 minutes. When the Mauler twins attempted to clone him, he reduced their laboratory to atoms. When Titan recruited him for Machine Head's organization, Vegeta's laughter echoed through the criminal underworld as a warning: approach the Saiyan prince at your peril. The Immortal rebuilt the Guardians with new members, always keeping one communicator slot reserved for Vegeta, the warrior who could be counted on when extinction-level threats emerged, but who would never truly join the team. Black Samson, Bulletproof, Shrinking Ray, Monster Girl, The new generation learned quickly that when Vegeta arrived on a battlefield, victory was assured, but heroic speeches were optional. Mark Grayson, Invincible, sought Vegeta out repeatedly, trying to understand how to balance power with morality, Viltrumite heritage with human empathy. Their relationship was complex, combative, and ultimately productive. Vegeta saw too much of his younger self in Mark's struggles and recognized the war between nature and choice. He trained the boy brutally, pushed him past his limits, and taught him that being invincible meant nothing if you didn't choose to protect the vulnerable. An Omni-Man, Nolan Grayson spent his days in self-imposed exile, helping humanity from the shadows, never seeking recognition, trying desperately to earn a forgiveness he knew he'd never deserve. The bodies of the guardians he'd murdered haunted him. The trust he'd destroyed festered like an open wound. But he persisted, hoping that perhaps one day his son would understand that even monsters could choose redemption. High above Earth, in a pocket dimension only he could access, Vegeta trained relentlessly. Pushing his Saiyan biology to adapt to this universe's physics, searching for the dimensional weakness that might return him home. Some days he made progress, most days he didn't, but he never stopped trying. Because princes didn't surrender, the warriors didn't quit, and Vegeta, despite everything, despite his pride and his darkness and his brutal past, had learned what Goku had always known. Strength was nothing without someone to protect. This Earth wasn't his. These people weren't his family. This universe had different rules, different threats, different definitions of heroism. But it needed him, and maybe, just maybe, he needed it too. Somewhere in the multiverse, Bulma waited. Trunks grew stronger. The Z-Fighters searched for their missing prince. And Vegeta endured as he always had, facing each day with the grim determination of a warrior who'd chosen protection over conquest, purpose over power. The Viltrumite Empire would come eventually. Dimensional threats would emerge. Reality-ending crises would test Earth's defenders beyond imagination. But they would face a universe that now contained something it had never encountered before. A Saiyan prince who'd learned that true strength wasn't measured in conquered worlds, but in the choice to stand between monsters and the weak. And that choice, made fresh each day, defined him more than any title or transformation ever could. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. More stories await.